Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So if you have any questions as the webinar goes on, go ahead and type them in the questions console, and we will get them addressed at the end of the webinar. So a little overview about the Bean Consulting Group. We're an Oracle Gold partner. We're specialized in Essbase and planning. We have experience with higher education, utilities, healthcare, telecommunications, and financial services. So now I'm going to start the webinar with the poll questions just to get a better understanding of Okay, so have you used EAS, EIS, both, or neither? So you can go ahead and answer that really quick. I'll show the results, and we can use that to focus this webinar. Waiting just for a couple more votes to come in. Okay, looks like the majority has voted. So close. So as you can see, the majority have used EAS for Essbase. So before the days of Essbase Studio, EAS and EIS were separate systems. EAS was used for load rules and calculation scripts and other administrative functions, and EIS was for drill-through reporting, so you'd have to log in. It wasn't as easy. But now with Essbase Studio, you have simple cube development, wizard-driven interfaces, and other functionalities that really make it a much easier to use tool. And with that, I will pass it over to Mark, who will show you it all in action so you don't have to take my word for it.
All right. Great. Thank you, Melissa. I just want to say first, thank you and welcome for everyone here that's joining us today. I'm going to be walking you through Essbase Studio. And just want to make sure, can everyone see my screen? Melissa, I guess you're the only one that can probably respond.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great. Well, so first of all I did here was log into the Essbase Studio console, so that's all you've missed so far. And this is what we see first. And you notice right in front here we have this big screen that has a bunch of wizards: data source wizard, mini schema wizard, hierarchies, cube schema wizard. And this is the best part about Essbase Studio. It combines all the tools that you need into one spot. And the best part is we don't even need to click on any of these links if we don't want to. There's different ways to get in, to look at your reports, view the cube schema, and the way that Essbase Studio allows you to use whichever option you want is truly its best asset. So the first thing we want to do is create a data source, which I've already done by clicking on this wizard and adding all of our information. And so what I'm actually going to do now, over here, this is our data source navigator. So this is where we store all of our data source connections. And we could view the connection that I've made already. The connection name, the type, we have our username and password, and we can test it, make sure that it's successful. And once you do have a successful connection, you can see all of our tables and all of our columns easily right in here. And if we wanted to, we can even view sample data to see what's in these tables. So if you wanted to look at how all the tables are connected, though, we could look at our mini schema. And so a mini schema is a graphical representation of a subset of tables and views of a data source. And it defines a relationship between the tables, which represents logical subjects that are used in further modeling examples. And so we could view the mini schema, and you can move it around, do whatever you want, screw it all up. We could always just come back and lay it out. And this shows, first, we'll go into a table, and we can view sample data again, just like we did over here in our data source navigator, except this is a different table. But what we could also do here is see the joins. So you can see the connection of our state ID from our sales facts all the way to our market. And so we have that graphical representation. And then if we even wanted to, we could come in here, add a join, and add another one or edit this one if we'd like to. So now we have our mini schema set up, and we're ready to start adding dimension elements. And so that's what we start doing over here in our metadata navigator. And so we could open it up, and I've already added all of the dimension elements from over here. But to show you how simple it is, all you need to do is drag and drop. Then we've got a new dimension element created. We could then edit it, go in and take a look if we want it, if we wanted it to be called something else, if we want it to be called skew, edit it right there. So I'm going to delete this though. And then what's also great is we can create a time dimension, which is going to be our period. And so if we looked at what was in our columns in our sales fact table, our trans date, you would see that we've got a day, a month, and a year. But when you're building a hierarchy, that's not as helpful as having this all split out into 3 separate columns. So we can just right-click, create data element. We're going to create year, quarter, month. Click OK. And there we are. Now we have our year split out from our quarters and our months that easily. So you could see, that took seconds to do. You don't have to go look through any of the SQL, but if we wanted to, we could go check it out, and we can see, okay, right here, this is our SQL that's creating the caption, and then we could filter it and sort it if needed. So if we look through the rest of our dimension elements real quick, we have a sales fact table, which is going to have all of our measures, sales, cost of goods sold, for example. We have our family, which I've already opened up. We've got our supplier, with our supplier information. We've got a scenario, population, and we're not going to be using all of these, but you could easily create joins and add them and be able to drill down into this information if later you wanted to. So we'll look at our products. There we have our SKU, and you could see our family ID so that we could later create the join. We've got a region, market, and our sales, which is the sales fact, the same as up here. So after we've dragged and dropped or created all of our dimension elements, what we're going to do now is create hierarchies. So to create a hierarchy, all you need to do is right-click on this hierarchy folder, new hierarchy, right here. And we can go, if we wanted to create, let's do, or let's build out now this period hierarchy. And so what we would do now is we could take our year and then have our quarter roll up to our year and our month roll up to our quarter, preview it, and the preview is only going to show you a little bit. It won't show you everything. So you can see we don't have quarter 2, 3, and further on, but you can see this is the correct form. I already have it created, so we're not going to do that. And then we can also create a measures hierarchy, which I've taken from our sales fact columns. And then I've also created a few of my own, for example, profit, margin, total expenses. And what we do now is build up all of our hierarchies created from these dimension elements. So we could look and preview some of these others, products. And if you notice, there's no aliases here because we're going to be adding those later. You could look at region, which is easier to understand. And so since we don't have, as you saw for products, we don't have any aliases on there, we're going to come in here in our alias set folder now and edit them. And so we can, I already have a family, SKU, supplier ID, alias set up. And then let's add, for example, a population alias. And that is going to be connected population. Oops, did I do this online? Yeah, there you go. Population connected to population alias. Okay. And there now we created another alias for it. Population. Hit OK. And our alias set's now built out, at least to the point where we are fine with it. And we're going to go look at our drill-through report. And I'm doing all of this before cube deployment so that once we do deploy the cube, everything is ready to go. And so if we look through our drill-through report, and the drill-through report just displays data retrieved directly from an external related data source. And what you do first is you pick the context, which is basically the intersection that you want to drill down to. And so I'm giving us access into all of these different intersections. And we're going to be pulling then sales, COGS, marketing, payroll, miscellaneous, and the trans date for all of those intersections. And we associated our schema, a model, so that it knows how to relate everything. So once we have this drill-through report ready, we're good to start finally deploying the cube. And so we'll just click on the cube schema and new cube schema. And here you would add in all of hierarchies or measures up top and then the hierarchies below. And I could show you what we have already. So we've got accounts up top, which is going to have a profit, margin, all of those measures. And then we've got our hierarchies below. And then we're going to create a cube. And a cube is going to be ASO cube. And if I hit finish right now, it's going to build another one. So I'm going to hit cancel. But I'm going to show you what happens. So we get our model. It's another graphical representation of what it's going to look like. And this is also now where we're able to edit our Essbase properties. So we could go see here's our alias set that we've defined. And then we could start looking into some of our hierarchies. And so if we go to our accounts, you'll see it's our accounts dimension, and then it's tagged. It's dynamically calced. And as we open it up, you can see all the different settings for all of our members. So sales are going to be added, and cost of goods sold are going to be subtracted from the margin. So this is where we take care of all of our properties, storage, the order that they're solved. This is where all the Essbase properties are being stored. And once you've taken care of that, we get to the exciting part where you get to deploy your cube, which I've done down here. And that's just the process of building or loading data into the Essbase model from Essbase Studio. And once we've done that, this Essbase Studio process is essentially over unless you want to make changes. And we're able to go now into Excel and use Smart View. And so that's what we're going to go do. So I already have Excel opened up, and I connected with Smart View to our ad hoc grid. And so you can see up here we've got products, scenario, region, period all across the top. We've got our measures. So I'm going to drill down to a lower level. And this is probably some of the stuff that is new to a lot of you, since a lot of you have used EAS before, but maybe not Studio, and maybe haven't had the drill down functionality. So I've gone to COLA's actual East quarter one. I'm going to change our supplier. And refresh again. I'm going to come and zoom in to all levels. So normally you would build this out and everything would be all good, but you see the sales number and you have no idea what makes up 1625. It could be one sale, it could be thousands of sales. We're not exactly sure, and before there wasn't a very easy way to find out. Well, now with Essbase Studio, when you're in a lower level, you can click down and drill down even further and look at all of the numbers that make up our sales So you can see here we've got 1625, just like we had here. And if we want to look at the cost of goods sold, that number is right next door. So just like that, we could find out what transactions are making up our accounts. And if you wanted to say, oh, I have the wrong product here, I'm actually supposed to be looking at fruit sodas. We could change it, refresh it, click back on sales, and here we go. All new numbers, all new transactions, as easy as that. So it's really an incredible tool, allowing you, we've been going over this for about 20 minutes, and I've gone through connecting to a data source, viewing the mini schema, adding alias sets, creating drill-through reports, building and deploying the schema, editing Essbase properties, and then viewing the results in Smart View and drilling down and viewing the most bottom level data. And that was all within 20 minutes, and to be honest, it wouldn't take much longer if I was doing it from scratch. And so it's really a great tool. It's intuitive, it's easy to use, and what really makes it so great is the fact that if you ever get stuck, you can just come back to this wizard, getting started page, and just click, okay, I need a hierarchy. Boom. It shows you how to create one. Or, I need to create an alias set. Boom. It's creating a new alias set for you. And so it's a great tool. I definitely recommend you get your hands on it. That's how I've learned, just by getting in here and messing around with some of the sample data. And if anybody wants a more in-depth look at something, feel free to reach out to me. Later, I'm always available for questions or just a discussion if you'd like to talk. But with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions if they've come through, Melissa.
Yes, yeah, we do have a couple, so I'm just going to change it back to me. So the first question, could you give a little background information on when people use the Essbase Studio? When in the process? Is it during the new creation of a cube to help assist design the cube structure?
Can I see these questions anyway, Melissa, do you know?
Yes, if you go to the questions tab, it will load them.
Trying to open it up, but it doesn't seem to show me much. Okay, can you repeat that question?
Sure. So could you give a little background on when people would use the Essbase Studio? When in the process? Is it during the new creation of a cube to help assist design the cube structure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely easier to use with a fresh cube structure. You wouldn't really want to do maintenance in Studio. It's not designed for that. And so if you're building a new cube, this will build everything and then send it to EAS. And so you'll maintain everything in EAS. And yeah, it's more about the construction and modeling and design than anything else.
Okay, great. A couple more. When using Studio, is the data stored in Essbase, or does the data reside in the relational database? Is it possible to set up alternative rollups? And then there's a follow-up question to that.
Yeah, and so everything's stored in Essbase, and you can certainly have alternate rollups. I just like to keep it simple at first, but you could have shared members and as many rollups as you need. And the follow-up.
Would the rollups be created in Essbase or in Studio?
So I mean, you could do either. You can create them in Studio, or you can do everything in Studio first and then send it to EAS, and then once you figure out what kind of alternate rollup you need, build it out using shared members in EAS, and that's totally acceptable.
Okay, another one. Is it possible to extract data from JDE One World tabs? If yes, what level of detail can a person view? Can a person view a journal entry?
I haven't used JDE with Essbase Studio a whole lot, so I'm not exactly sure if you'd be able to see the journal entries, but it should, you should be able to connect to JDE, to your tables using those category codes pretty easily. You shouldn't have any issues doing that.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show your contact information, just if anyone wants to jot that down for other questions, but it looks like there are a couple more that have come through. What about scanned images from invoices?
Scanned images from invoices.
Would you build
I mean, so it's a graphical user face, but it doesn't have any kind of it needs to be in a relational database. So you're not going to be able to get scanned information into it without manually entering it in, unfortunately. It would be pretty interesting to do it otherwise.
And then does Studio load data into Essbase?
Yes, it does. If I open up EAS right now, which I could do briefly just for the fun of it. Oops.
Oh,
we could look in EAS real quick, and you'll see actually, do I know? So we're going to look through our Essbase cluster. Find our app. And so now here's our outline, all in EAS. So that's why I'm saying it's probably easier to do maintenance in EAS because you could just come in here and if I was in edit mode, add and move around all of these elements. But for actual design and modeling, Essbase Studio is much easier to use.
great, thanks. Well, I'll go ahead and show your contact information again, but if there's any more questions, feel free to type them all in. Okay, looks like we don't have any more. One more. Once you make an outline change in EAS, can you make additional changes in Studio?
So once you make an outline change in EAS, I'm actually not sure how that's going to. So it wouldn't. It wouldn't affect Studio. You would have to delete the cube, make your changes in Studio, and then redeploy it into EAS if you wanted the changes to be in Studio as well. But you definitely don't need them in Studio if you're just going to be maintaining in EAS.
Okay.
All right. Well,
we got everyone's questions. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone coming to join us.
Thank you. There's Mark's information again right there if you want to, anything comes up later, and there's mine on the screen as well. Thank you guys, and have a good rest of the day.